Library. For those of you who don't know, SmartSuite Library is probably the most sophisticated, feature-rich, totally cloud-based library solution for any library of any size. And the best part of it all is it's absolutely free of any license, purchase, upgrade costs. When you sign on for SmartSuite Library, your annual cloud subscription is so small that any library can afford it, and you don't just pay for a small piece of software and then you add this module and add this module and add this module like our competitors do. You get everything and you choose your level of engagement. So today we're talking about circulation. So basically you can sign in, and then to get to circulation you go menu and you go circulation, and you have two options. You have librarian circulation and self-circulation. If you've got students that want to do their own circulation, or you got monitors that want to do their own circulation, or you've got RFID and you want to do circulation through that, we integrate with just about anything, not just in the circulation module, but in cataloging, in reports, in importing of foreign data, exporting to foreign data. We integrate with everything, and it's all part of the system. Okay, so let me just very quickly just demonstrate how the circulation works in two areas. So if you go self-circulation, which is the monitor circulation, okay, that's how it comes up, straightforward. And you just click loans, you put in your barcode, then your barcode of your book, your barcode of your book, your barcode of your book, your next Patron barcode, your barcode of your book, and then you just go finish. That's it. If you want to return, you click return, and you just zap in all the barcodes of the book. When you finish, you go it, and literally it's as simple as that. Okay? Now, we'll talk about the parameters for circulation in a minute, but this is a great way to set up your circulation for your students. And the big advantage is, if you want to set up circulation for teachers, well, you can give them rights so that when they log in and they click the menu button, they're not going to get all of this and just fiddle with your library system. They will just get not even full circulation. They'll just get that circulation if that's what you want. But the teacher might be doing a lot more than just circulation. They might even be adding students when you're not there, in which case you'll give them this option, and that will allow them to circulate and add patrons at the same time. Okay, self-circulation is a monitor circulation, and we've got another training module and shows you how to set up a monitor and how many monitors can you have. Well, SmartSuite, it doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing, everything is unlimited. So if you decide to run a library that's got 10 books, 100 books, 100,000 or 10 million books, we really don't care. It's up to you. If you've got one patron, or you've got 1,000 students or 4,000 students or 50,000 students, we really don't care. If you got one teacher or one library staff member, but you have to, or you're a library that runs 10 staff members in the library and you're looking after 400 teachers or 700 or 7,000 teachers, everything is literally unlimited. So what you can do is you can create a monitor login for one monitor, which might be the year 7 class, another monitor login for the year 8 class, and another monitor login for the year 9 class, and so forth and so on. So circulation from a monitor level is very easy. However, let's go to normal circulation. Normal circulation is very, very powerful. Okay, and the difference between the monitor circulation and the full circulation is you can still type in your number, or you can type in SMITH Smith. So you can type in a surname or first name and it'll bring up all the people that match that. Okay, and we'll come back to that in a minute with Mike Smith. Okay, but you can see I type in SMITH. I could have just typed in S and it'll bring up anyone with S. Okay, I could have typed in SM and it'll bring up anyone with SM, and so forth and so on. So first letter of the surname, first letter of the Christian name, first 2 letters, first 3 letters, first 5 letters, we couldn't care less. When you put anything in here, we'll give you a list that matches that and you pick it up. And once you've got a patron up here, So all you do is you zap in the barcode of the book they want to borrow, the next barcode, then the next patron name, next barcode, next patron name, and that's all there is to it. If you want to return books, you just click return, just go zap, 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 return all the items in there, and then go back to loans and just carry on. And that's all there is to circulation. Okay, now if you call up a patron, okay, Smith, and I'll bring up Mike Smith, if there are reasons why he shouldn't be borrowing, it'll tell you and you can override it. Okay, and the way the loans, the way the circulation data shows up on the screen, their photograph will appear here, the current loan, the red is an overdue. Okay, so you might say, oh, hang on, you got mental mathematics, I can't give you any more books. Or the brown is a book that he did borrow, then he claimed he returned it. Okay, so if you say, no, you can't have mental maths or you can't have Garfield, put a tick on the item that you can't have because you want it returned. And he said, but I returned Garfield. All you do is you click claim return. Put a tick in the box there and then go claim return, and that's how you return that's how you mark them as claimed return. It'll pop up a little box, and in that box it'll ask you to put some reasons in there. You can just leave it blank, and what will happen is on that catalog record Garfield, on that particular copy, what the system will do is it will turn around and say that Mike Smith borrowed that book on such and such a date, and on such and such a date he claimed he returned it, but we don't have it. That's what it'll do against that catalog record, and it'll also put it against Mike's name. So what that means is that every time you call up Mike, it'll just give you a little reminder, just letting you know that this guy claimed he returned books. Of course, if you get a lot of browns, then you want to stop accepting the fact that he's claiming he returned them. Okay, if he said he lost Garfield, then you just click on lost, and that's all there is to it. Okay, now if he says, I've got mental mathematics, I'm still working on it, can I please renew it? So you can put a tick in there, and then you can put renew, and it will apply the parameters, which we're going to deal with later, and renew that item. Okay, or he said, that's my maths textbook, and I had it last year, but I'm repeating my maths lesson this year, so can I please renew till the end of the year? Of course you can. So all you do is you go to the due date and you choose whatever date you want him to return that book. So the 17th of December, Mike, is that okay? And he said, yep. So all you do is you put a tick in there and then you go renew. And it will renew the one that has a tick to that particular date that you put in there. Okay, remember to get rid of the date, because otherwise, while ever a date is in there, when you're doing any kind of circulation to anyone, if there's a date in there, it will disregard the loan parameter and it'll apply that due date. And that comes in very handy. You get a teacher that comes in and goes, Mr. Librarian or Miss Librarian, we are doing dinosaurs in our class, so can we please borrow all these books for dinosaurs and return them at the end of the term? And you can say yes. So you put a date in here, and then what you would do is you'll say, all right, all Mrs. Jones's class, you line up on terminal 1 please, and you go there for your normal loans with all your dinosaur books. Everybody else that wants to borrow books, you come on terminal 2. And then what happens is you leave that date and then you just check out all the dinosaur books to all the different students for that particular period. Okay, and that's all there is to circulation. It literally is that simple. Okay, now you've called up Mike Smith and you go, Mike, I can't loan you any more books because you got mental maths. He goes, no, I haven't. Yes, you have. No, I haven't. Yes, you have. No. Instead of having this argument with him, say, how about I give you a note that you can take home to mom and ask mom to help you search for it. So if that's the case, you go down there to please choose and you go overdue items. Choose you want an overdue items list for this particular student, and you click that button and it will go and run the overdues for this particular student, bring it up there. Okay, so there's Mike Smith, and that's mental maths, and he's also got high risk, which is a claimed return. We'll just put it on there. We could have excluded it, but we'll put it on there, and all you do is print. But if you say can you give me your dad's email address? So in which case you'll click email and you'll put in, dear Mr. Smith, can you please check Michael's room for the following books, and specify to, you'll put in Mr. Smith's email address and you'll go send now. And that's all there is. And Mr. Smith, young Michael's dad, will get a report of the items that are out. Okay, so that's the overdue items report. If Mike says, I'm just letting you know, we are leaving Melbourne, we're getting out of this curfew and we are going to sunny Brisbane, so I won't be coming back to school in 3 weeks time. You go, oh, thank you for giving me that information, so I want the current loans. You go to current loans and then you go and you say, I want to run the report for the current loans. Same process, all it comes, and there's all the books he's got on loan. Print it, give it to him, and why not also click on the email and send it. The subject will be, Mr. Smith, can you please make sure that Michael returns all these books to the school, or we're going to invoice you for $500. And you put in this Mr. Smith's email address and you go send now. They will get an email from do not reply. If you want them to reply to you or want to give them the opportunity to dialogue with you, you can put in your email address here, reply to this email, and then go send, and that's what they'll get. Okay, so that is circulation in a nutshell, very fast, very quick. Okay, and circulation runs like a dream. Now, as I've told you when I started, SmartSuite library is free. You'll never get charged for an upgrade. And it's the most feature-rich and the most enhanced library system you're ever going to come across, guaranteed. So, if you say, well, we do this differently and this is how we run our library, or what are the other options? So, if you want to look at all the options for the library circulation, there's a settings button here. You can click on that, and there's all the different parameters, and everything in SmartSuite is all based on parameters, okay? Because we don't want you to run your library the way we are telling you should be running it. We want you to choose how you run your library and the way you run your library. And especially in this case, circulation. You can do the same with cataloging. You can do the same with inquiries. You will be amazed how configurable it is to the way that you do things. And we will introduce so many new things that your library system that you've currently got, if it's not SmartSuite, you just make you think, why am I running such an old archaic thing? Okay, so have a look at the facilities and how you can tailor and change the way the system works. Now, the problem with running circulation is that you do not want any undue errors appearing on the circulation screen. Things like the patron has exceeded his borrowing limit, or the patron has expired, or the book is not allowed to be borrowed to this person. So there's a whole bunch of parameters that makes the library system work. So if you're new to SmartSuite library, I am going to go through the parameters one by one that you should mark in red, that you should look. So if ever you get an error in the circulation system, it'll usually be one of these parameters are not set or not set correctly, and you want to make sure that you go through one of these 5 parameters. So the first thing is, let's have a look at a patron. Okay, because you're going to be borrowing to a patron. We'll come down to patron, we'll go down, we'll do it from the circulation screen. So in the circulation screen, and we're going to call up Mike Smith. So S-M-I-T-H Smith, and we'll go down to Mike Smith. Okay, so there's his record, and you want to be able to call up his personal record, click on his name, and this is the patron screen, and there's Mike Smith's record. Okay, so what you need to understand is that the borrowing parameters, so if you're going to get any circulation issues, it will usually be because of this one thing here called class grade. Your class grade parameters are not set correctly. Okay, that's very, very, very important. So that's on the patron side. Okay, now let me show you where you go to check all your class grades. You only ever need to set it once when you come onto the system, not every year, not every quarter, just once. And once you set it, then what you can do is you can just forget it. And as long as from year to year to year, your year level, your year 12s can borrow the same amount and have certain parameters, in your 11s and your year 7s and your year 8s and whatever they all have, as long as they don't change, you will have no issue. So to get into, so if I click in here, it's an authority file. So every time you click anywhere, okay, if it gives you a list, that means it's an authority file. That should be a dead giveaway that you can actually go somewhere to find this list. And there's only one place to go. To get to the authority file, click on Menu, click on Configuration, and then go down to the authority file editor. Just click on that. And it'll bring up the editor for all the authority files, except it's alphabetic, so audience is up the top. Nothing else, just audience. If you click it, there's all the different authority files. So if ever you want to look at an authority file, play around with an authority file, change an authority file, this is where you go. But we are only talking about class grade. So we'll click on class grade. Okay, and there's all your year levels. And you're looking at that and you go, ah, I've got another class grade in here that doesn't seem to be here. And that's class grade is called parents, or it's called the helpers, or it's called advanced year 12. So if you want to create a new class grade, you just type it in there and you go plus. So that's how you create a class grade. But every individual class grade has its own borrowing parameters. So we look at 12 as an example. So if you want to find the borrowing parameters for 12 or 11 or 10 or whoever, all you do is you click on the pencil. Okay, now here we go. So it has a security level, which I'll come to in a minute, but that's the final borrowing date. That is the date when you want all the books back in the library at the end of the year or end of term. You're going to do a stock take, so you'll say, no, I want all the books back by the 13th of December, because on the 13th of December, where's that? Because on the 16th of December, school closes. So I want the books back there. I'm going to give them another 3 days grace, and I can chase them up. The expiry date. My recommendation is go and figure out when you think you're going to retire, add another 50 years to it, and make that the expiry date. Now, the reason for that is it's totally irrelevant in the system, but the system requires a date in there. And the reason why the system requires a date in there, if you are, say, a P to 12, a primary to year 12 school, and year 12 is your final year, and you know that the year 12 students are not coming back after the 1st of June. Everybody else will, but the year 12 students won't. So what you do is you go into the expiry date and you say the year 12s will expire on the 1st of June. So if a year 12 comes to try and borrow an item, it'll give you a warning and say he's expired, don't lend it to him because he's not coming back. You got Buckley's chance of getting the book back. That's what it's here for, the year 12. Everybody else, as I said, figure out when you think you're going to retire, add 50 years to it, make that the expiry date, and that's the end of it. Okay. The next ones are fairly straightforward. How many books can they borrow? 5. How long can they borrow it for? 14. If you're going to allow them to renew books at home when they're at home and they've got overdues and you want them to renew it, how many times can they do a renewal? So they can only renew a book once. So after the first renewal, they cannot renew it anymore. They have to bring it in. That's what that is for. If they hit the renew button and they were allowed to renew it, how long can they have it for? 14. Okay. Can they reserve? We don't want them reserving everything. Yeah. Anyone in year 12 can reserve only one book, or they can say 5 books or whatever. Can they have multiple copies of a book? Definitely not. So you would not put a tick in there. Okay. So if there's no tick in there and he's left his textbook at home and says, don't worry about it, I'll just borrow another textbook. As soon as they come to borrow it, the system will say, Jack's already got this book, don't give it to him. That's what that is about. Okay. Now, patron override is always blank for patrons. But if this was not year 12, if it was a teacher, okay, and you turn around and say, the teachers can borrow 100 books and they can have it for 365 days. Now what you can do is you can say the patron overrides the book loan limit. So if they come to borrow an overnight loan item, then it'll say, no, 365 days, I can override it because my Patron parameters overrides it. If they come to borrow a 14-day loan limit, it'll say, no, the Patron can override it. Okay. If they come to borrow an item that's not for loan, it'll say, no, the Patron can override it. They can have it for 365 days. So dangerous to put that tick in there except for the teachers. Okay. So that's why you have that parameter there. And then all you do is hit save. That's it. And that's all there is to the class grade. That's parameter number 1. Parameter number 2 is the security level. Okay. So that's this one here. This is very, very, very important, even though it's not used a lot. So let me show you some creative ways you can do it. So you're a P-12 school and you've got your collection divided into junior school, middle school, senior school, and all your collections. So let's say, for argument's sake, all your junior school books have a security code of 0. So if it's 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 and they're a junior school, they can borrow up to security 6. Okay, so then what will happen is, if it's a middle school, the middle school can borrow up to security 9, and the senior school can borrow up to security 12. So make sure that the class grade corresponds, the security number corresponds to the class grade. So if year 1, it's a 1. If it's a year 2, it's a 2. If it's a year 3, it's a 3. If it's a prep, it's a 0. If it's a year 11, it's 11. It's a year 12, it's a 12. Okay. If it's a teacher, by default, make sure that all the teachers have a security code of 50. Okay, because they have no number, we'll choose an arbitrary number, we'll make it 50. If it's an administrator or library staff member, make it 999. So just give it that number and save. Now let me explain what happens. So let's go here, year 8. Now I'm a year 8 student, so I come and pick up a book and the security rating on that book is 5. And because 5 is less than 8, I can borrow it. I've got another book and the security rating is 7. 7 is less than 8, I can borrow it. Borrow another book and it's 0. 0 is less than 8, I can borrow it. I borrow another book and it's security 8, I can borrow it. I then get a middle school book and it's a security 9. But 9 is more than my security, so I can't borrow anything over 8. So it'll pop a message and say, this book is out of this child's security range. Do you want to override and allow him to have it? So you can override it only as long as you have circulation rights. If you're a monitor circulation, you can't. Okay, so that's what it's about. So it's about protecting the collection, making sure senior fiction is only available to be borrowed by senior staff, making sure the teacher references, you mark them all, the books as 50, and then when they come to borrow it, a year 12 will never be able to borrow a teacher's reference resource, but a teacher will be able to borrow it. Okay, now you've gone and bought this very expensive encyclopedia series and it's $1,000, you paid for it. So what you do is, when you catalog that book, you'll make that book a security of 100, something over 50. So when a teacher comes to try and borrow it, it'll say, no, this is out of the teacher's security. They can't borrow it. You can override it if you want, but they can't borrow it generally. Okay, so that's how the security limit works. If you're running TV for education, it even works there. So if you've gone and added a video and it's not appropriate for anyone under year 8, so what you would do is you'll need to make that video a year 9, a security 9. So the catalog record will say that's a security 9, which means you have to be at least a year 9 student to be able to borrow it. If it's Shakespeare and it's the nude version of it and it's the latest version, it's got a lot of swear and what have you on it, you might want to make it security 12. So you have to be at least a security 12 to be able to borrow this one. Or it's a video that you've got from TV for Education and it's about bullying. So you don't want kids to watch it because you're going to teach them behavior that's not acceptable, that's considered bullying. So you don't want to want them to watch it, because when they watch it, then if they can watch it, they'll learn how to bully from a bullying video. So what you can do is you can say, no, I'm gonna make it 50, so teachers can show it in class and explain why certain behavioral trends are unacceptable. Okay, So that's number one, and number two was securities. Number one was class grade, number two is security. Now we're going to go on to we've dealt in everything to do with patrons. So now we're going to go on to the other side and the collection, the actual collection. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a record here. So let me just go into, let's get rid of this. Okay, and let's go and bring up the catalog screen and show you where the security system is on the catalog screen. So every catalog record has a security number, and there it is. So if I only wanted year 9s and above to borrow it, I'll make it year 9. And if I wanted year 12s and above to borrow it, year 12. If I wanted teachers to borrow it, 50. If I wanted only the admin staff to borrow it, 999, or anything over 50. So it could be 100. Could be 51. As long as it's over 50, they'll be able to borrow it. So that's how that works. Okay. So there we've dealt with class grade and security codes. The next thing that you need to do is in the authority file is the loan type, the renewal type that you need to put in. Okay. So when you're looking at the catalog record and you're looking at a barcode, it asks you what type of loan type is it and what type of renewal type is it. Okay. So every catalog entry, every barcode is a loan type and a renewal type. Okay, and when you click there, remember, whenever you get a list, you know it's an authority file. So the way you go to the authority file, as before, menu, configuration, and then authority file editor, and then remember it comes up and it says that it's in alphabetic sequence, and we're talking about loan type. So you click on here and you'll go all the way down to loan type. Click on the loan type and you can create loan types. These are just names. They don't have any digital information about what a monthly loan means and what a no loan means and what an online loan means. So if I created term loan, a term 4 loan, I would type in here term 4 and click that plus, and that will then go and create an entry here. Then I need to click on the pencil for that. So fortnightly, let's have a look at fortnightly. I click on the pencil, and the fortnightly is a 14-day loan period. And it hasn't got a final borrowing date. If I want to put a final borrowing date for you, yeah, most of the time you leave it blank, but you can click on the pencil and you can say, anyone borrows a 14-day loan period in term 4, I want those books due back on the 18th of December. You don't have to do it because you've already set the final borrowing date for the entire collection in class grade, if you remember. Okay, so that's where you put it, and then you just go save, and that's saved and done. So every catalog record has to have a loan type, and they also have to have a renewal type. So when I click on renewal type, okay, oh, I haven't got an overnight, a 7-day loan, a weekly loan. So you can just go in here and type in weekly, you go plus, it'll be in there, click on here, and then you'll go and click on the pencil and say weekly means 7 days, and you can leave that blank if you want, and then just go save. Okay, so that's the last bit of the parameters that you need to do. So if ever you have an issue with circulation coming up with undescribable errors, number one, okay, make sure you go to configuration, go to the authority file, and make sure that you have class grades and all your different class grades are in there. Make sure that in the class grade, when you click on the pencil, it tells you, like, see, if I circulated a book to a year 6 person, you'll have all kinds of errors because there's no parameters set up. And you go, oh, okay, so that's year 6, and the final borrowing date is the 17th of December. The expiry date is, so I'm going to choose that date, and I'm going to retire in 2099. So you say, okay, that's my expiry date. They can borrow 4 books. They can borrow them only for 7 days. They can renew a book once, or I don't want them doing any renewal, so 0. They can, the renewal period, if I renew them at the circulation desk, they can renew it for another 7 days. They cannot reserve, they cannot have multiple copies, and I don't want them to override anything. So now when I go save, all my year 6 students now have these parameters. But before that, where it was all blank, I would get a circulation error for every year 6 student. And just by clicking that save, watch how fast it goes. You probably won't see it. But when you click save, just flash, flash, flash. When you click save once, what it does, it grabs all the year 6 and applies all of that to them. Done. Okay, so class grade, security levels, every year level has a security grade. Make sure that whatever year level they are, it's the same number. So if it's a 7, it's a 7. If it's a 12, it's a 12. If it's a staff member, it's a 50. If it's a library administrator or library staff member, 999. Okay, so that's security levels. Now, the other parameter that you're going to make sure that when you have any circulation issues is the loan type. Have a look at the loan type. Oops, sorry, not literature. Have a look at the loan type, and you should have all your different loans. So if you're trying to create a catalog record and you only want to make sure that it's a 6 monthly loan, you'll come here and go, oh, I don't have a 6 monthly loan. Well, why not create it? Type it in there, click the plus, then click the pencil, and then tell us 6 monthly, what does it mean? It means 180 days. Okay, so put that in there. Okay, and you go, yeah, but what if the 180 days takes it over the first term, the first 6 months? So put a final borrowing date and say it's a 180 days. However, I do not want it to go past the 6th of June 2021. And that's fine. So when 6th of June 2021 comes, you just come here and change the final borrowing date for a 6 monthly loan to the 18th of December. And that's all there is to it. Okay. And then the last two parameters is, so you got loan type and you got renewal type. Okay. Now, before we sign off, don't forget, experiment. We want to make sure that we give you as many options to do whatever it is you like, so that you don't have to run your library according to the way we have it. You tailor your library to the way you want to run. You run your circulation the way you want to run. Click on the settings menu, turn things off, turn things on, have a look at all of this stuff here, and go ahead and enjoy. If all those basic parameters are done, I can guarantee you, you will have one of the most wonderful, wonderful library circulation experiences, because you won't get an error except that it's out of their security range, or they've exceeded their book limit, which are all legitimate errors, or this patron has expired, or this book should not be borrowed to this patron. Okay, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present SmartSuite YouTube Live Circulation. Enjoy.